What's up, everybody? It's your boy StephenMotivate back with more tips on our 52 Turo tip series. So excited to be with you. Excited to talk through some of these tips today. I believe we're on tip number 7. Tip number 7. So what's today's tip? Today's tip is buy cars, get cars that you can unlock remotely. Remote lock and unlock. Make sure that's a feature on the car that you're getting to put on Turo. It's going to help you run your business more automatically and more efficiently. Locking and unlocking a vehicle can become a huge nuisance in this business. Folks lose car keys. They forget car keys inside of a vehicle, accidentally lock them inside. You may not want to give someone the keys until they've proven that they can go through the proper steps. But that may come at an inconvenient time. And so you want to be able to lock and unlock the vehicle for multiple reasons while you're doing this car sharing business, so you maintain some level of control over your car and over the process of sharing your car to someone else. So as you're looking for vehicles, one of my tips is to look for vehicles that you can remotely lock and unlock. What I found in my experience of remotely locking and unlocking cars is that at times the manufacturers change their requirements, they change their processes for actually signing up for that service. This is when the cars themselves come with the service natively, and so being able to lock and unlock a car, sometimes it goes through system updates, and so you have to go and, at one point you were able to do it and all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. That can be a huge inconvenience. You've got to be careful and wary of that. I think more of the newer cars, it's starting to become very common to be able to lock and unlock your car remotely. But on some of the older cars, just trying to stay up to date with the technology, it can create reboots and new processes or new updates where you might lose that access. That's a part of this business as well. Nice to have, not a must-have. But tip number 7 is just that it is a good way to, again, help you maintain a life outside of the business and give you some control over your asset. Tip number 8 is to really understand the operating expenses. So some of the big operating expenses associated with actually working and doing your Turo business, there are third-party apps that you can use to actually put trackers on your vehicle to shut your vehicle off, protecting these assets. And so vehicle trackers are very important, but many of them come at a fairly decent expense. The more popular ones, the ones where you can get service and have folks come and look at the wiring and make sure things are done correctly. But a lot of those have an ongoing monthly fee. So one of the larger operating expenses that people don't realize is that when you start this business, yes, you can buy the car and you can get insurance, which we'll talk about next, but you also have to take into account the actual operating expenses of having security for your vehicles. So in addition to that, the other big operating expense is insurance. You've got to have insurance for these vehicles, and you want to make sure you have not only your normal car insurance, but you're also going to want to make sure you have gap insurance. So if there's ever any gap in coverage, that if you have these vehicles and they're not completely paid off, that you have gap insurance, and that's going to cost you additional monies, but it will make sure that your vehicle's covered if there's a major accident and for some reason Turo doesn't want to cover it, or it happened off of the app or off of a trip. So gap insurance is important, and then just having normal insurance is important. A lot of folks are now going to Lula for their insurance. You can look that up, Lula, Lula. But there is another group that folks are familiar with, which is called the American Business Insurance, ABI, and their Period X insurance, Period X. So you can look that up as well. But those are two services that will allow you to actually insure vehicles that are on the app, and that's going to cost you. And some of these products that they have, they don't insure them when they're on a Turo trip, because they expect Turo's insurance to kick in there. They only give you what's necessary for the state minimum, and if the car's parked in the lot, then it will insure it there. But just having insurance for it being out, no, the expectation is that if it's away from the lot, it's on a Turo trip. So now that's Period X. Now Lula has two products where you can actually get a similar product to Period X, or you can get commercial insurance where it's actually covered whether or not it's on a Turo trip. So you want to look into both, but the point of this is that you've got to work that into your numbers, because that's an additional expense, an additional operating expense to your business. And so what are you really bringing home? What are you really profiting? Well, if, depending on what market you're in, when you're working with Turo, and as other hosts come in and if things start to get flooded and people start to drop their price and you're not getting bookings automatically through the Turo platform, and you're not doing anything outside of it to market the business on your own, your profit margin is going to be squeezed pretty tight from just the fact of you paying for the vehicle protection, which is that insurance that you've got to have. Starting out, if you just have a few cars, a lot of people just use their normal insurance. As long as you don't run into a claim, then you'll likely be fine. But once you run into a claim, many times the insurance companies are not going to like the fact that you're on Turo or using the car in that way, and they will cancel your insurance completely. And if you're making money hand over fist right now and things look good, you just want to keep some money set aside, because at some point those expenses could rise, etc. And so you just got to be conscious of the fact that that's a part of the operating expense of this business. The other thing is vehicle maintenance. Vehicle maintenance can make or break your business. So you want to find some sort of connection as it relates to parts for your cars, where you can get your parts at cost or cheap or at a discount, or you want to find but in addition to that, you want to find someone that can actually maintenance your cars properly. And so when you're buying a vehicle, you want to make sure that you've purchased a vehicle that your maintenance guy knows how to maintain. If you're purchasing luxury vehicles and the wrong person tries to maintain them, it can be crucial and detrimental for your business. So, but just maintenance in general, brakes, tires, windshield cracks, all these sort of things come up, and it's part of the business. So a tip is to just make sure that you're setting aside money for maintenance, because you could have a big maintenance expense come up, and if you've not set aside any money. The other thing that I'd say, a big operating expense, is just the registration for vehicles. You got to register your vehicle with the state and get your plates, update your tags. That's going to happen annually, so you need to make sure you're keeping some money back for that. Lastly, I'd say is staffing, which I didn't mention this, but washing cars would probably go along with the maintenance piece. But in addition to that is really staff. If you get large enough to have staff, you need to understand how you're paying your staff and how that's tied to the overall profitability of your business. If you can afford staff, how many people you can afford, how you're going to pay them, and what the process is going to be for payment. If you're going to pay them per trip, if you're going to pay them after each trip, if you're going to pay them for deliveries, etc. All these things come into play in actually running a profitable business. Whether Turo is profitable or not is really up to the host and up to the area. But more times than not, what I've found is that it really depends on a number of factors, and all the things that I mentioned, if they're not managed properly, will certainly make the probability of you being an unprofitable host that much more likely, meaning you're not really making money from the business. And so this business is not for folks that don't understand how important it is to pay attention to all the expenses associated with your business, because again, if you don't, then you will lose money, and it won't go well for you, and you'll lose time and effort along the way. So look, that's tip 8. Understand those operating expenses. Those are some of the big ones. I'm sure there are more. If you have questions about this or you want more advice on Turo, happy to help. Look me up at StephenMotivate. You can, of course, tap in with me below. Reach out, ask questions. Happy to help you get started on your journey of this money maneuver that you can make. And as always, stay motivated. Peace.